Today's episode is brought to you by West End, South Australia's most iconic beer. Now, it's a clean, fresh draft beer. There's nothing more local, nothing more South Australian than cracking a red tin.
I sat on the plane back to Port Lincoln, wrote out a big 3-page retirement speech. Was going to be done.
Did you really?
Yeah, it did. 100%. Wrote out this big, in my diary, wrote out this big 3-page retirement speech, and I was going to say, no, I'm done. I'm going to stay in Port Lincoln now and play country footy.
Well, Kyle Chalmers captured the attention of the nation when he stormed a gold as an 18-year-old in the 100 freestyle at the Rio Olympics. And just as his swimming career was taking off, he was struck down by a heart condition and a pair of dodgy shoulders. Thoughts of retirement filled his head, but he courageously fought back, and against the odds, his lion-hearted swim at the Tokyo Olympics led to an unlikely silver medal in the 100 freestyle. It was a huge performance. I'm really grateful that Kyle has opened up here for the very first time since the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, where he again won gold, to share his thoughts on the media frenzy and the tabloid drama that surrounded the recent Com Games and World Championships. He also talks about his mental health, his love of tattoos and reptiles, and also his plans for Paris 2024. I'm so excited to have Kyle here with us. I hope you love the chat. Now, this episode does talk about mental health, so if you have any concerns, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Rightio, let's go. Welcome along to the Soda Room, a place where we get to know the real stories behind some of the biggest names in the game.
It was like we had won the grand final.
I just got some new boots. It was something special for me.
Did you understand the significance of that moment?
Oh, yeah. Nothing compared.
That's what I thought I had to do as a leader.
You got the same undies on.
I've got exactly the same ones on.
Kyle Chalmers, welcome along to the Soda Room. This is what we call it.
I love it.
It's a judgment-free zone. We just come and chat.
Yeah.
Mate, I've got to say, I've forgotten how big you are.
I know. I was actually in the car park over here, multi-level 195, and I felt like I was ducking my head to walk through because I'm 194, so my head was almost hitting every beam as I was walking through.
You are just growing and growing and growing. You look like you're taller, and you certainly filled out more over the past couple of years, because I can remember when you were just a skinny young man, but still bloody fast.
Definitely filled out. I think, unfortunately, my height's probably plateaued. I think that plateaued when I was about 11 years old and I hit puberty at school. But yeah, still filling out, I think, a little bit. And over the last few years, definitely put a bit on my shoulders, which has been nice.
What do you weigh in that?
Well, yesterday, actually, I had my skin fold. So I've had 3 weeks off. Yep. Really have not looked after myself at all. And I put on 6 kilos. So I raced at about 92. Really? Yeah. Now I'm up to 98 yesterday. So right now I'm at 98, which is terrible condition for me.
So when did you get back in the pool?
Last night.
Was the first swim back for 3 weeks?
Yeah. I did a little bit through my break, but jumped in last night for the first time.
So just completely let go for those weeks? Do you just eat what you want or whatever? Or
just be as normal person as I possibly can. Normally my breaks consist of, media, sponsorship commitments, kind of chasing that all around. Yeah. But for me this time went to Wagga Wagga for a week for my brother's army graduation, which was awesome. So the family all went to Wagga Wagga. Yep. And then from there I went to Bali with a heap of my swimming mates for a week, which was awesome. Yep. And then came back home to Port Lincoln for the Port Lincoln grand final on the weekend. So brilliant. I had a very normal lifestyle, probably had a few too many beers and eating some terrible junk food, but it was so good to unwind. I had the greatest 3 weeks of my life, I reckon.
Mate, I can imagine you're so disciplined. You need that. When you go junk food-wise, what do you go to?
I'm a big KFC man. The first thing off the plane, KFC. No
what do
matter
you get?
where I come. Probably a Zinger box, but probably 2 or 3.
Really?
I unload. I'm a person that will go, I'll eat as much KFC until I feel sick, so that I don't want to eat it again for a long time. So
so that's KFC. What about when you win a medal and you go back to the village where the Com Games, Olympics and all that? Do they have KFC, Macca's and all that there, don't they?
McDonald's they do in the Olympic Village. They have an all-you-can-eat McDonald's. But normally for me, I'm competition for 8 days, 9 days, racing every single day. So it's chicken and rice when I go back to the village and probably a bit of pasta for lunch.
And then what do you get on the last day then once you finish competition?
Well, it's got a bit difficult now. So the last day for us is get on the plane the next day and fly home. COVID. So haven't been able to really embrace it. But normally it'd be try to find the local chicken shop wherever I'm in the world and compare it to the Glenelg North KFC.
Oh, of course. Yeah. The other thing at KFC too, the wicked wings, the crispy outside.
Nothing better.
They used to have hot and spicy many, many years ago before you were bloody born.
Yeah.
And it was magnificent, that crispy.
Hot and spicy, they've still got it up in Queensland.
Are they?
Yeah, they still.
Really?
Queensland rock the hot and spicy.
Is that right?
Yeah, so you can get original recipe or hot and spicy.
Oh,
anyway, KFC, if you're watching this.
Exactly. What are we getting out of this?
Yeah, exactly. But so 3 weeks has been amazing. Yep. Had a few swims just to keep my mind. I'm a person that's really fallen in love with just getting in the pool. It's like the greatest form of meditation for me, I think, where I don't have a coach. Yeah. I don't have any sort of swimming session or whatnot. It's just jump in with my flippers on, swim as slow as I want for as long as I want. It's just me in my own headspace. So I love that. So I've done a fair bit of that over the last little bit.
What are you thinking when you're just in your own headspace?
Well, I don't know. I think you'll just let your brain wander. I think it's the most important part of my days is when I'm in my pool because I'm away from technology, away from people kind of yelling and screaming at me or commitments and whatnot. I'm able to just be in my own headspace and let my brain think and brain probably go where it wants to go. So for me, if I'm stressed, like especially over this break where I'm stressed or I've probably eaten a bit too much KFC, just to feel like myself and make myself happy, I'll jump in the pool and might swim K and a half and just zone out to the world. It's nice.
That's it. So that's your meditation, your Zen moment.
Yeah, it is now. It's weird. I never thought that I'd form that relationship with the pool or with swimming, but definitely over this last period I have.
Now, I can remember you saying ages ago, when you get your break, you'd stay out of the water. Yeah. But now you actually...
Now I want to be in it. I've found a love for it, I think, in that way. Because I think it just helps me relax in a way, normalises things for me. Like I'm in Wagga Wagga probably running around doing things, people know who I am, so getting noticed and distracted. And for me, jumping in the pool is my little safe spot that I'm able to escape from it all.
So did you just go down to the local pool in Wagga Wagga?
Yeah.
Did the bloke at the counter go and look at you twice and go, is that the fastest bloke on the
person at the counter didn't. She was on her phone. Yeah, that'll be $7 or whatever it was. Tapped the phone, walked in, and then all the lifeguards and people in the pool were pretty excited about it. But it's probably not until I take my T-shirt off and people see the tattoos and the Olympic rings and then they go, oh, that's Kyle Chalmers, and then a lot of photos happen, but at least they let me get through my little bit of swimming, which was nice.
That's fantastic. Well, you mentioned that. I can see the tattoos sticking out the top of the T-shirt and everything. You've gone crazy in the past couple of years.
I have.
You had the rings, and I think you had the Citius Altius Fortius at one point.
We did. We unveiled that together, I think, actually.
I remember. You did, a couple of years ago when you came back from Rio.
Yeah.
Now I'm having a look at you. You look like you drive a Harley.
I do drive a Harley.
You got a Harley?
No, I don't.
You will.
I don't. I drive a lifted Ford Ranger.
Beautiful. There's tattoos everywhere.
There is. It's
What's
funny.
happened?
I was only with Sauce a couple of weeks ago. Me and Sauce Jacob sat down and watched Brisbane play Melbourne still in the season, so before the final started.
This is Big Sammy Jacobs, former Crows ruckman.
The man. And I was sitting there, and I must have been tattooed that day, I think, and I said to him, I used to sit there and watch the AFL or watch these guys and go, oh, it's so disgusting, all these tattoos. Like, why would anyone ever do that to the body? And then now you get one or two and then you just get addicted. And my brother's right into it and my best mate's a tattoo artist and one thing's led to another and he's just covered my body in tattoos.
So this is your best mate that does them?
My best mate does them for me.
So you're like his experimental canvas?
I've given him a blank canvas and said, mate, go to work, do what you want to do. We kind of give each other a bit of ideas and then he puts it all together and does it for me.
Hang on. So what's this bloke's name?
Laz.
Right. So you rock into Laz and Laz goes, I've got an idea.
Yeah.
And you just lie down.
Pretty much. So normally it'll be, we come over, have a barbecue on a Sunday night, probably discuss a few things and then he'll be like, oh, I've got a pretty free week this week. Do you want to come in? And then the plans come to fruition.
Give us a little idea because you've got the big basketballer on the forearm there.
Yeah, I've got Kevin Durant here.
Yep.
Which this arm needs to be filled out. This is my next project.
So the right arm will be a sleeve like the left?
Yeah, it will be.
So there's Kevin Durant. Obviously there's some Olympic stuff around.
I've got, obviously the Olympic motto here.
Yeah.
This was just a walk-in tattoo with my cousin at one stage. This arm's really been nothing. I haven't done much on this arm.
Right. Can you just tell me the Kevin Durant, are you comfortable with it? Is it a good look-alike?
Yeah, I think he's done pretty well. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but I think we could touch it up a little bit. He spelt thunder wrong. But if Kevin Durant hadn't played up in the off-season this year and tried to request his trade away from Brooklyn, I think people would appreciate the Kevin Durant tattoo on my arm. But unfortunately, I went home to the country on the weekend and a lot of boys who follow basketball over there were just pretty distraught that I had KD there. But so KD's rocking there.
Yeah.
Nothing else on this arm. I've got the big King's crown here.
The big chest.
Yeah.
And now you've got the German underneath, isn't
the
it?
German. So that means only the strong survive in German.
Right.
So for me, I did German at school, and I used to go to Germany quite regularly with Adidas and Mercedes and BMW and swim there all the time, and I have a real fascination with the German culture.
Now, only the strong survive, what was the meaning behind that? When did you get that?
I got that just before trials this year. So just before the Commonwealth Games trials, I got my chest fully done.
Right.
But it was something that I'd spoken about getting for a little while. I was going to get it on my hand when I was in the Netherlands last year. And I always promised my mum I'd never get hand tattoos or neck tattoos. So she was very happy when I came home and hadn't had it done. But for me, I think having it in German just sounds a whole lot stronger than having it in Aussie. Did
Les spell it right?
He did spell that one right.
You sure?
He had to do a capital S. There is one little mistake because we do have a German guy training with us at the moment here in Adelaide, and he said starken, which means stronger, is supposed to have a capital S, but he got everything else right, which was good.
Right, I'll come back to that tattoo in a moment because I reckon it was almost like it was really prophetic for you coming into trials. Just on the left arm there's a whole heap of stuff.
Yeah, left arm, I've got the Greek god of war. I've got the butterfly beast, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Family crest, little map of Australia. That was just a bit of a gap filler.
Give us a look at the gap filler. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's good.
Fits there. I really wanted a frill neck lizard, but it didn't quite fit there. One they'll get somewhere else on the skin.
Yeah.
My swimming number, so when you represent Australia, you get a number. So that was my first ever tattoo when I was 16, I think.
Yeah.
761. This one's probably my favourite piece. This is what I designed for a couple of years with Laz. So obviously I've had 3 heart surgeries.
Yes.
So for me, I've got the little heart there. And then I've got a chain leading to a lion, and the chain is broken. So for me, the heart was holding me back, and I'm the lion, but the chain's now been broken. So that's what that little piece there resembles.
And the lion's got a crown fittingly too.
Yeah, it does.
He's the king.
King of the jungle.
Yep.
Behind here, I've got my world record, my first world record short course where I did it. And again, probably another little space filler.
Yes. And then on the bicep.
On the biceps, a special one as well. I got my grandparents to handwrite their names down and their birth dates. So that's their actual handwriting, which is special for me. This one's a star. I saw Damien Lillard had something similar to this. It was like a big outline of a star with words that he thinks make a star person. Yep. So for me, I've got kind of, courage and determination, resilience, what I kind of want to stand by. Family's written in there, but
there's one thing I can notice with that, Kyle.
There is a little spelling mistake in that one as well, but it's a good story.
I think resilience is not quite spelt right, is it?
Yeah, it's not. Resilience has got an A instead of an E.
For Christmas, you should buy Laz a dictionary, and he should have to have the dictionary right next to him next time he puts the ink on your skin, right?
Laz, to be honest, Laz will watch this and be so upset about it all because
Laz, you've got great work. You've done great work.
And he hasn't made any spelling mistakes before. It's just that we'll come in there and he'll do tattoo for me because he'll have his day off on a Sunday or something. Yep. Open the shop up for me. It'll be a kind of last minute sort of thought. This was as soon as I got off the plane from Tokyo, I went in there and he said, "Oh, guys, cancelled on me today. Do you want to get a tattoo?" Oh, yeah, sweet. Right. Kind of drew it up all that day, so I was a bit rushed. Yeah. And I have no idea how to spell resilience, so for me, it's fine.
Look, I can tell you one thing. You might know how to spell it, but you know how to behave it.
I tried to behave it.
I think you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, the tattoos look cool.
Yeah. Getting there. Mum hates it. My brother's almost at the same point as me. And
Jackson is he?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
So how old's he now?
He's 21.
In the Army?
In the Army, so he's really covered up.
And loving it?
Absolutely loving it, which is great. I think he's really found his little niche, which is nice.
Brilliant. I just want to ask, that tattoo you've got there on the chest there, so only the strong survive.
Yeah.
So you got that just before trials.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's probably ever since the trials this year that you've copped a fair bit of flack. And, one thing I think is amazing is given all the attention that you've had, you've still been able to perform every time. Even as a youngster, when you bounce back from, you win your gold at the Olympics in Rio, you go to the world champs and that sort of thing, and you're swimming still fast times.
Yeah.
When all the attention, all the pressure's on, you're still able to deliver.
Yeah, I think the weird thing for me is as soon as I stand behind the blocks, it's that is again my safe spot. That no matter what's going on in my life, I pride myself on when I stand behind the blocks to race, I'm able to block everything out and just focus on that race and swim and do well. I know how to race.
Well, clearly.
I train it at 50 weeks of the year. I train that exact moment. So for me, my muscle memory just takes over and
I've got to say though, but with all the attention, and this is even before controversy out this year, even if you go back to the attention and you're 18 and you're Olympic gold medalist in a blue ribbon event, does any of the pressure come into your mind? Like you said, you stand on those blocks or you're behind the blocks and this is my backyard, this is my playground.
Yeah.
Do the doubts come at any time though? Do you feel that pressure or are you able just to go, nah?
I think early on, definitely there was doubts. I think for me, standing up in Rio as an just turned 18-year-old that had done very little swimming, or that was my first time competing internationally individually, to then trying to back it up at home Commonwealth Games 2 years later. Well, let me go to Rio. Rio, I felt completely bulletproof. I had no idea what I was doing. I was going to win it as soon as I swam the relay on the first day. In my mind, I'd won the race.
You were going to win the 100?
100 free, yeah.
And so you're a couple of months into turning 18 years of age. Where does this maturity come from?
I don't know. I think I swam a really good heat in the relay. We won a medal, like a bronze medal, and I was on top of the world. And then I swam the heat of the 100 freestyle, and I remember I was in the last heat. I had Nathan Adrian next to me, who was the defending champion. And I remember turning kind of pretty similar time to him, but then coming back in the fastest 50 anyone had ever seen. Oh,
we watched it, don't worry. Everyone was watching it here, mate. It was an amazing back end.
So that was the heat. And I went, I'm going to win. No, that was, my mind went, I've already won this race. But
before the race?
Before the final. So then I had, 36 hours, I guess, before the final to try to relax and, well, not relax, but semi-final just relaxed again and swam how I kind of did in the heat and didn't sleep that whole night.
The whole night?
Nah, no sleep. You don't sleep during those competitions. It's it's just wild.
So what you're lying in bed?
And just your brain's running, because you caffeine up and then your brain's just running at 1,000,000 miles an hour and you've just done a semi-final and you've got to get ready for a final and you start thinking about the final and how it will feel to win that gold medal and whatnot. And, you know, you're on a completely different time zone. So I'm probably speaking to all my friends back home as an 18-year-old and just lack of experience. And then, rocked in the morning, probably had a light swim. I remember just kind of spending the day with Cam McAvoy playing PlayStation or Xbox at that stage, playing a bit of COD and then, rolling in for the final. And I remember speaking to my coach and, again, just being bulletproof and not needing that race plan or anything. And he'd send me a couple funny memes for the day. He sent me I think there was something going on with the gymnastics at that stage. He sent me that through and then he spoke to me on the phone and he didn't say anything other than fuck him.
Really?
That was the whole race plan from my coach. So
is that Peter Bishop?
Yeah, that is the great man, Peter Bishop. Yeah.
That was it?
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Fuck him.
Is that going through your mind?
Yeah, that's going through my mind. And for me, I just had it won. So I was just completely bulletproof, just thinking I was the greatest thing probably on pool deck, just because I'd gone from all my junior races to that moment and it was just a progression. And I hadn't really probably lost at that stage or so it was great. It was the greatest feeling.
When you turned, what position were you in?
7th.
Did you at that point still know you were going to win?
That moment I was, just pumped, licking my lips going, this is the greatest thing ever, I think. Really? I love a fight, I love a scrap, and I love backing myself in. So for me, it was so good just watching the other guys kind of fade away and me just swimming over the top. And I knew that I was the fittest. Like I'd sacrificed everything to be in that race. Like I was training almost 13 times a week, I think, almost in the pool. I was kind of doing my own swim sessions on a Tuesday and Thursday afternoon when no one else was. On top of your training. Did coach know that? Yeah, Bish knew I'd go in and do my skill sessions and then jump in with the younger guys because I was swimming with Shelley as well at that stage, Shelley Jarrett, and I'd jump in and still swim with them just so I could stay connected with my friends. And then we'd go down the beach and have a swim with Shelley with the open water guys. We were swimming from the Broadway street to the jetty in Glenelg back. So that was about a 2K swim, maybe once or twice a week. I'd jump down there with the open water guys and just did everything I possibly could to be successful in that moment. So I backed myself in to be the fittest person in the race, which was also good, just drawing that confidence. What happens when you're 18 and you've won essentially the number one swimming event on the planet, the 100 metres men's free? What happens to your world? Then that's when it becomes hard, I think, because I go away as a person that doesn't know me at all, right? Like I get away with whatever I wanted to do, just a normal person. Come back off the plane, again, really not knowing what I'd achieved. Did some cool things in Rio, like, had some cool opportunities, but to come back to Australia, meet the Prime Minister when I got off the plane, come back into Adelaide, just media and people everywhere. And everywhere I went, I'd get stopped for photos and signatures or free food here, free this and that, rah. And next week I was at the AFL Grand Final and some of the because I was in the back of the ute, the retiree players were coming up and asking me for photos and I was speaking with Joel Selwood and Matthew Pavlich on like this, and I'm a huge AFL nuffy, especially then.
Love footy, don't you?
Love footy. So for me, I was just in awe being, Joel Selwood's here on this panel talking next to me, like just crazy experiences, flying to Europe for photo shoots, getting noticed in London, kind of, I went to Stamford Bridge to Chelsea, because swimming's a world sport. That's what I think, especially even talking to big Sammy Jacobs again, like, he gets harassed massively here in South Australia or in Australia, but swimming's one of those ones you go anywhere in the world and you almost can get noticed. So
it's amazing just thinking of that. Like, you're 18 years of age, just turned.
Yeah.
And you think of what most kids are doing when they just turned 18. They're probably going down the pub having a beer and doing that. You're flying around the planet, probably appearing on GQ and sticking watches on and driving cars. Did it take a while to sink in?
It did. It was hard. Again, GQ. I was GQ Athlete of the Year that year.
Yeah.
Had the Mercedes-Benz as an 18-year-old. But went to Stamford Bridge at Chelsea Stadium. The guy noticed who I was. Can you sign a cap? We want to put it in the Chelsea Museum as a famous Chelsea supporter. And I was like, I'm actually an Arsenal supporter. That's fine with me. Here's a cap, whatever. But just incredible things. And then the Olympics goes, like, it goes really quickly. The next thing comes into the minds of Australia's public, and then you go real quickly as well, which is probably where the struggles started to come, I think.
Just before we get to that, what was the most bizarre thing, the opportunity that was just insane after becoming an Olympic champion at your age?
For me, it was being in the back of the ute on AFL Grand Final Day. It's a moment that will stick out forever. I got there early, like I said, did that speech with Joel Selwood and Matthew Pavlich and a few other guys, and did the lap around. I remember Adam Cooney, like a Brownlow medal. I remember watching his Brownlow medal and then him coming up and asking me for a photo, and Patrick Dangerfield had just won the Brownlow that year and he's in the ute behind me and they're all talking to me, whatever, and then going up into a box and sitting there with Ruffy and guys that weren't playing in the grand final watching. And for me, that was the most surreal experience as an 18-year-old, to have all your guys you watch on TV week in, week out there.
Better than the stuff happening internationally.
Yeah. It's AFL. Yeah. There's nothing better. I mean, flying business class to a photo shoot in France is cool, but it's a lot of work, a photo shoot in bathers. 2 days in a row.
Did you have some models with you, or were you just
always models there? And I'm always the thorn in between all the roses, but I've got the rings, so that's all. The Olympic rings on the chest, that's all they care about, really, I think. But yeah, amazing little period there for sure.
It's just phenomenal, isn't it?
It is.
And to think that's 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, you're 24 years of age. It feels like you're 28 or 30 because you've done so much.
Yeah.
But you're still so young.
I am. And
do you feel old?
I feel very old. I feel like I've been around for a very long time. Even, on the Australian team now, I'm like maybe the 4th or 5th oldest kind of guy or swimmer on the team now that's been around for the longest, because I debuted in 2015. So it's crazy, all these 16, 17, 18-year-olds that are starting to make the team, and I'm now the mentor that's trying to hand out advice and people look up to and whatnot. And it just happens so quickly. But, with my list of injuries that's happened over that period of time, everything that's kind of happened and whatnot, I do feel very old.
Did the target go on your head straight away after you're Olympic champion? You felt it in the swimming world?
I did, but for me, again, still I was like, no one's ever going to beat me. That was my mindset there for a long time. I was like, how do I get beaten now as an 18-year-old? I go on and
get stronger.
This is me, yeah.
Bigger.
Yeah. And then I think, like I said, I had all of that amazing opportunity and all kind of come crashing down, and started to be like, this is kind of grueling swimming. And then I had my heart surgery in 2017 and had to pull out of the World Championships, and sat up in the stand. I had to go over there and commentate in Budapest, which was a weird thing again for just a 19-year-old at that stage, to try and talk a bit about swimming and try and do some pool deck interviews and whatnot. And watching Caleb Dressel, who I've had a lot of fierce battles with over these last few years, watch him race in Budapest that year in 2017 and swim so well was probably what actually motivated me to try to get back in the pool and have another good crack, because I probably needed that person to drive me forward.
So he was your Tokyo nemesis, wasn't he? And then also your world champ nemesis, Caleb Dressel.
Yeah, so we've had a few real good battles. I think, I don't know, I think it's about 2-2. Okay.
Yeah. When you said that, you had the heart surgery and all of that, I just want to go through some of these injuries. It's sounding so. Is it super ventricular tachycardia?
Yeah,
is that what it was?
That was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I got atrial fibrillation.
Oh, there you go.
So I've always, when someone has heart surgery or a heart situation with sport, it always sort of triggers in my mind.
Yeah.
Because your heart rate was just going all over the shop, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we could be sitting here right now,
and
my heart rate would have gone up to 200 plus, and I'd go all dizzy and potentially black out, which was happening quite regularly when I was in the pool, and which is quite scary because you could potentially drown, obviously. So
absolutely.
2017 I had my first surgery. Was young, 2015 I had my first surgery. Sorry, so before the Olympics in Rio, and I asked to go get knocked out for it, and they couldn't get enough adrenaline to my heart, so the surgery was unsuccessful. They couldn't find the problem because essentially they've got to trigger it, make it happen, find where the problem is, and then they're able to go in there and ablate it.
Burn a pathway or something, don't they?
So essentially it's like an electrical circuit. Obviously the electricity goes in, goes around, comes back out. I've got an extra circuit that the blood's able to get into, and it gets trapped in that circuit and can't come out. So it was going in there and not coming out.
Was it dangerous, potentially? Did the doctors talk to you about that?
The surgery?
Or just the whole thing by having that condition? Or
I think it's
more
a common
hindrance?
thing. Yeah, just a hindrance, really. Like if it happened to me at the Olympic Games before my race in a final, I wouldn't have been able to race. Yeah, so, or I dove into the pool, then that's the problem.
Had it happened in races at all, or training or anything, or when did you notice it?
Yeah, quite a lot in training. So I'll start from the start. 2015 didn't work, the surgery. 2017 it started to happen a bit more, and we went, let's have the surgery again, have another go. Not under the, I don't know what you call it, where you get knocked out.
Oh, anaesthetic. So you're awake
So I'm awake for the surgery.
Right.
And they went in there, did the little burn, found the problem, came back out, all good, sweet to go. And then they only put a little burn in it, so it reformed. And then 2019, I rocked up at the World Championships, and it was happening quite frequently leading into that. And before my 200 freestyle semi-final in Gwangju, it happened in the marshalling room. And I obviously couldn't stop it or whatnot, and ended up racing. So I was in the marshalling room probably 10, 15 minutes before my race, and this is happening, and I'm just trying to stay relaxed, trying to get it going. But it's like doing a max heart rate session before you do a race. And had a shocker and kind of came back to Adelaide, spoke to the doctor, and he said, hey, you booked in for surgery next week to have another go at it. And this time they went in and took the whole circuit out, and since then I haven't had any problems.
No problems at all?
Which has been awesome. Yeah, so the last 3 years haven't had any issues with it.
So that's essentially fixed it?
Yeah. So that's it, done. 3 surgeries done.
Did you tell the surgeon, mate, you should have done that in 2015?
Exactly. Well, I had 2 different surgeons from 2015 to 2017, but if only they fixed it then, I would have been good. But
because, of course, there was the heart situation. Now, tell me about the shoulders.
Shoulders no good. So the first one went on me in 2020. So 2020 I was flying. I was in the best shape of my life, swimming so well, ready to defend my title.
Coming into Tokyo. Had the games been cancelled at this point to 21? No, they're still 2020.
So still 2020. So I got to March. We went to Sydney and raced, and I swam so well in heaps of races and really, really well. Like I think if it went ahead, I would have absolutely nailed it that year because I was just in the form of my life, feeling real good mentally, physically, everything going really good. We then obviously got cancelled because of because COVID. Went on maybe a 4 or 6 week break, forced break because the pool's all shut. So I went back home to the country, did some fishing, did some work for my cousin, came back to Adelaide and thought I could just turn it back on how I was and started pushing myself as hard as I could. And my first shoulder went on me, which was my left one. And they tried everything. They did I had pretty much cortisones in every part of my shoulder I could just to see whether that would make it any better. They did the blood plasma thing where they suck your blood out, spin it in the machine, inject it back into the subscap and try to repair it that way. So that actually repaired my subscap, which was good. But I had like a torn labrum, torn subscap, bursitis. My AC joint was no good. And then I've got this in both my shoulders. I've got these osmochromiales, so it's an extra bit of bone in my AC joint.
You've become like an anatomy specialist.
I've had to learn. Yeah. I've had to learn, unfortunately.
So what's with these bits? They didn't form
as a child. Yeah, so they didn't form as a child, and now I've got 2 options: as they can actually go in there and fuse them together, or they just take them out. But it means no swimming if they were to do either of those. So
for how long?
Well, now it's just push through.
Oh, it'd be no swimming at all. Yeah, that would be the end of the career.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be really hard to come back from that. The surgeon told me in Sydney. So I just got to push through that pain, which is fine. The AC joint I can manage with, but when I had this torn kind of ligaments, that was where I was getting in a lot of pain.
Yes.
And my life just got really affected from it. Drinking coffee or brushing my teeth, trying to sleep, wash my hair, all those little basic things was really, really troublesome for me. Anyway, we pushed through with cortisones and this and that because surgery's last option always for sport, and got to December where they finally decided that was the option that I had to go down, and which was scary. Only 6 months before the Olympics was due to go ahead, that I was having surgery and having to build back from it. And I couldn't swim pretty much from March through to December. I just did face down snorkel kicks. I had my just kick all day.
Just not use your arms.
Running. Yeah, couldn't use my arms. A lot of running, a lot of cycling, but it was definitely mentally challenging on me.
So this is coming into Tokyo 2020 or 2020-21 as it is then.
Yeah.
2021. Yeah.
2021.
You get up for that. You go to those Olympics.
Yeah.
Now, you got your silver, but you swam bloody fast. You equalled your PB, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Spot on it.
And that was Dressel, Caleb Dressel again.
Yeah.
So you performed magnificently.
Yeah.
You swam faster, as fast as you ever have in your life.
Yeah.
It wasn't good enough for gold. How did you feel?
Yeah, I think for me, it was such a hard experience just to get there. There was so much doubt always whether I could actually. I didn't race until the trials, which was 4 weeks before the Olympics, and even there, just had no confidence in myself because I hadn't done the training and hadn't done the work, and I was still in a lot of pain. Like I had before the Olympics, I had 2 cortisones in my left shoulder where I'd had the surgery, and I had one in my right shoulder because that was starting to go on me. So.
And going the same way the left one had, you knew what was happening?
Yeah, I knew what was starting to happen. Again, starting to feel it. And for me, I reflect on that race as my greatest race in my swimming career, my greatest moment in my swimming career. If I look back in my drawer and go through my medals, and the silver one's the one I'm most proud of. Because it's just been like that 5-year period between, like I said before, Rio, I hadn't really been a swimmer for all that long. I was playing footy the year before. I put a year of work into it, and I won, didn't know what it meant. That 5-year period of all the ups and downs, you go through everything in that 5-year period, to stand behind the blocks at the Olympics when I a lot of time didn't think that I was actually going to get back there with my shoulder, and to get a silver medal, swim my PB, swim 0.5 of a second faster than I did at the last Olympics, break the Olympic record, and only lose by 0.06 of a second. So swimming, you obviously dive off the block and you get a reaction time. Caleb's reaction time was 0.60 of a second to dive off the block. Mine was 0.66 of a second. So essentially we swam the exact same time. It's just he beat me off the block.
Right.
So it comes down to nothing. And for me, I can look back on it and go, I did a lot more racing than him to that point. Like I did the 4x200 freestyle relay to be a part of that and win a medal. I had to do the heats of the 4x100 freestyle to get our team through to the final. And I had to go max in both of those just to get us through. And then the semi-final of the 100 freestyle, I probably didn't go hard enough, and I was an outside lane. So when I was racing, I couldn't actually see where he was, and I was breathing to the wrong side. And I couldn't see where he was. So for me, that's the only thing I reflect on. If I did a bit better in the semi, I would have been fine. But
the thing is, like you're saying, you're super proud. Under that pressure, you performed on the big stage.
Yeah.
The 18-year-old from 5 years early to now the 23-year-old, you said that invincibility. You and everyone else. What was your mindset like going into that one where you picked up the silver?
I just didn't know what to expect. I had no idea. For me, it was probably just trying to stay calm, relaxed, enjoy it more than and be grateful for the opportunity. For me, especially being in Adelaide in this small bubble, everyone kind of knows who I am, and everyone wanted to put their 2 cents into whether the Olympics was going to go ahead or whether it should go ahead with COVID. And there was always that doubt. And it wasn't until probably the first race dived in Tokyo that I actually believed it was actually going to go ahead. And for me, it was probably just being grateful that it was happening, enjoying being part of the team. I had my coach there, which I didn't get to have in Rio, which was awesome.
Did Peter Bishop have the same game plan? What was it? Fuck 'em in Rio? What was it in Tokyo?
We were a bit more serious by then. We knew what to do. We had to have a bit more of a chat probably.
I don't mind the original plan though. It's
agree.
not bad.
I think we should bring it back. I think for Paris, maybe we'll bring that back.
You could use it for anything in life.
Yeah. Well, I think by Paris, I'll be invincible again because I've gone through it all. So I'll be able to go to fuck 'em.
Have you got that tattooed on your body yet?
Fuck 'em?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
You should get Peter Bishop's head with like a speaking bubble just saying fuck 'em.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll do it.
That's what you need to get. If you get that, can you show me?
Yeah, I will.
You talked about Paris. I want to come back to that and find out where you are. And I love the fact that you've just said, I'll be invincible by Paris, which is great. Just to go back then, so obviously you get the silver at the second Olympics.
Yeah.
You didn't defend your title, but geez, you bloody swam well under pressure.
Yeah.
So you were feeling really good.
I was. And I think, to be honest, in the moment, I was like, oh, that really sucks. I gave Caleb a hug on pool deck and did my interviews and walked through the media hall, and I was probably a little bit down in the dumps. But when I got back to our little team room where Bish was bawling his eyes out, so proud of me. Like, it was so good to share that moment with me. And for that, it kind of went, oh, this is such an amazing thing that I've just achieved. And then I was able to reflect on it with him. And, you know, he said, you know, I didn't think we would get back here, and I had so much doubt. And even speaking to the physio that was working on me the start of 2021 around March, when I couldn't even swim still in March, he was like, you had no rights to be at the Olympic Games. You had no rights to be there. I looked at you. You had no deltoid. You had no muscle in your left shoulder at all. I did not think you were going to make it, and I didn't want to say that to you. But for you to actually make it and do it all was amazing. And for me to be able to reflect on those things has been special. And
you swam your equal fast. It was the same sort of time you ran, I think, for silver, wasn't it, at the World Champs before that, 47.08?
Exactly. Yeah, 47.08.
Caleb Dressel got you there too.
Yeah, too.
Trash talking between you two or mates?
Mates. Yeah. Mates.
Good guys?
Historically, really good mates. Probably right through to through to Tokyo, really good mates. And then I think he just went to that superstar level, you know, like won 5 gold medals, the next Michael Phelps. And just the pressure and expectation that now has been put on him, it's quite hard and sad to see. And I think he's struggled with that quite a lot, because I saw him at ISL. We caught up and didn't go too well there. Well, we were still good mates. We're still good mates and want to chat, but he, I think, just is feeling it a lot more. And then World Championships this year, rocked up, raced a couple of days, and then went home. So I hope he's able to get himself right again to swim.
So you can smash him. In a competition sense.
Competition, as a competition don't want to lose.
No. So let's go to this year. We go to the trials in May. And I know you've been pretty outspoken about everything and the attention and the tabloid fodder, if you like. Yeah. And I know you don't want to talk to the media.
Yeah, this is my first media back.
I know this isn't it. I feel very honoured that you're here having a chat.
Yeah.
Because you did say that, look, if this keeps going, or the clickbait and that, you'll just call it quits and not talk to anyone and maybe not even swim.
Yeah, which I stand by.
Yeah.
I don't swim for that. Yeah. But we'll go back to the start of the year. So I came back from 6 months. I spent the last 6 months overseas racing. My second shoulder went on me. I had surgery the end of December. Got back in the pool because World Championships was supposed to be in April in Japan. Got back in the pool, was pushing myself. My shoulder wasn't getting any better because I was just trying to push it too hard, too quickly. Then the World Championships got cancelled. So for me, I went, I need to have time out of the pool. I haven't had any time out of the pool in 2.5 years at that stage. I just pushed through because my breaks were rehab. I was in the pool by myself, rehabbing, gymming, whatever. So I had time out of the pool. I went to a Bucks party in Melbourne, one of my best mates' Bucks party, and one of my really good mates, Ash Delaney, was there, and he said, oh, come up to Noosa, the Sunshine Coast, and see the kids. The kids would love to see you, see my new house, and if you want to have a swim, have a swim. I'm like, oh, we'll see. I don't know if I want to have a swim. I don't know whether I want to swim anymore, whether...
This is, coming into Commonwealth Games this year, you'd actually considered you might not swim at all.
Yeah, so this was March this year.
And this is long before all the media.
Yeah.
Right. And why were you at that point where you thought, I don't know if I'm going to continue to swim?
Because I was just in so much pain with my shoulders that I couldn't, I was just struggling to sleep, and just my everyday life was being just affected by it. And it's like, is it really worth it? So I just needed that break.
That's playing in the back of your mind anyway before anything happens.
Yeah.
Right.
So I went up to Noosa, jumped in up there, ended up jumping in there with the young squad of 15 kids that I'd never met in my life before. It's kind of a youth program of, or not even, it's a school swimming, like it's a school club. And these kids were just in awe of me, and I had the greatest 2 weeks of training, or just enjoying swimming again. And I went, my shoulders started to feel a bit better, seeing the physio up there, training with my best mate, living with him and the kids, and just that family environment that I was loving it. Just really found my happiness up there, to be honest. Started swimming butterfly again, which is something I used to do as a kid a lot, and I was doing in 2020 before COVID happened. I was swimming butterfly. So in New South Wales, I raced butterfly, and my butterfly was going really good. Yeah. And my plan was to swim the 100 butterfly in Tokyo, and then my shoulder went on me and I wasn't able to swim butterfly. I had to focus on the freestyle, and last year broke an Australian record in the butterfly. Yeah. And so I started swimming butterfly again, and at that point, it was about 6 weeks until our trials here. And I had a meeting with the head coach of Swimming Australia up on the sunny coast. He came up and saw me and said, "Oh, let's plan out what we're doing through to Paris." And for me, I went, I don't even know if I want to go to Paris at this point, mate. Like, I've done one training session back in the pool here at this point. I don't know, and I knew that to keep my funding and sponsors happy, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to do that. I want to do Commonwealth Games just to keep them happy.
Yep.
But in my mind, I wasn't doing commies because I'd only done 6 weeks of training to get to trials.
So I had no intention of swimming at the Com Games?
Not really. Nah, probably, in the back of my mind, no, because I knew that that's a lot of work to get to that point. And I just need to find my love for it again if I was going to get back into it. And so I started swimming butterfly just to do something different, stimulate the mind, kind of go back to my roots a little bit, and ended up coming down to trials, not thinking I'd swim well at all, obviously after 6 weeks of training, and I wouldn't even call it training what I was doing. And then, managed to swim quite well and qualify.
When did all the crap start? Because that was about then all the tabloid stuff started, didn't it? With Cody Simpson, Emma McHugh and all that sort of thing. So was it an article or something that came out, or what?
Well, I spoke before the competition started, and they said about how good is it having Cody in the race, right? And I spoke so nice. It's fantastic. The viewers that are going to come into the sport, this and that, it's awesome. I look forward to racing against him. I've only been back in the pool for 6 weeks. We'll see how I go. I made the team on day one in the 100-meter butterfly. Got out of the pool, we did our interviews, whatever, and I went and spoke to the head coach and said, sick, I'm on the team, whatever. And then the next day I woke up and it all just kind of started ramping up in the media that, it just blew up kind of that I'd said that I wanted to go to the World Championships now, whereas, previously I'd said I hadn't wanted to when I wasn't swimming. Yeah. And then, they just started probably trying to dig and make stories out of nothing.
So they were making stuff up saying essentially you wanted to swim butterfly to keep Cody Simpson off the team.
Yeah.
Which is absolute crap.
Absolutely. Absolutely crap.
Why would that was never any motivation? It wouldn't even be in your thought process, would it?
No, not at all. Not then. Not then and there. Not then and there. For me, it was swimming butterfly just for the enjoyment, wanting to race before Commonwealth Games if that was my plan. And if I managed to make the World Championships team, I knew how hard it was for me sitting in the stands in 2017 watching the World Championships and not being able to participate when I had the heart surgery. So I didn't want to miss it. I looked at it and I spoke to my coach and I said, hey, I don't know how many international competitions I'm going to have left in my swimming career. My shoulders could go on me again tomorrow. My rest of my body could, who knows? I need to be there because this is what I work so hard to do. This is where I make my money. This is where my sponsors want me to be. I have so much relying on me to be there and I want to be there desperately because all my mates are there and I will find it really hard if I'm left in Adelaide here by myself and the Australian swimming team's in Budapest racing at the World Championships. Yeah. So for me, that's my mindset is I don't want to miss that.
Well, that's what I would think.
Yeah, exactly.
That's logical.
Exactly.
But then all this stuff starts digging. Now, for someone, you got to deal with the pressure of competition and expectation, and then suddenly all this other stuff that you never had to deal with before starts coming in and writing about your private life and all of that. How does that impact on you mentally?
It was really hard. I think I was very lucky. So I raced the 100 fly. The next day I had the 50 butterfly and did the heat of it, did really well in the heat, and then all that started coming out during the day. And I was very lucky that my manager had flown across from Melbourne that day. I didn't have anywhere to go, so she stayed with me at my house for the day. And she got a call maybe around lunchtime and said, hey, this is Swimming Australia media guy. This is all coming out. Just to let you know, this is probably what's going to get asked on pool decks night, rah, rah. So I guess for us, we were able to prepare ourselves and expect that that's what's going to happen. And I think I found it really hard. I got out of my 50 butterfly. I just won. It was my fifth different event that I'd won a national title in. It was my 10th national title. I'd swam a PB after all the stuff that's just gone on. And I got out of the pool and got interviewed by Jan Rooney, who knows swimming very, very well, who's been involved in swimming for a long time. And she didn't mention one positive thing about swimming. She just went straight into that. And for me, I was kind of really blown away by it because I watch swimming. I'm a big swimming fan. I watch trials. I watch every race. I watch the interviews after the races. I hear what she asks everyone else. And for me to stand there for about 20 minutes and get grilled in front of everyone live in the crowd and on TV, I found very, very challenging. And for me, I would never stop and talk. For me to rock up at trials, I pay to race there. Like swimming is a very unprofessional sport in that way. Like I pay my $25 to enter my races, to qualify for the Commonwealth Games team. My family all pay for their tickets to come and watch me race. Like I have no obligation to even stop and talk to the media after races. And for someone who knows so much about swimming, for her to kind of throw that at me, and that was what really opened it up, because then everyone started jumping in and on Gian and what she'd quoted, and yeah.
At that point when you're there, what are you thinking? You think like, I'm just going to walk out on this, or I need to answer, or I've got to think of sponsors? What?
Yeah, I think I'm proud of myself. I look back on that video and I reflect on it, and I think I answered the questions the best of my ability. And yeah, I think it's a very, very challenging situation to be put in, but I was glad that I was able to actually voice how I was feeling and voice, you know, my words in it, because otherwise the media can write whatever they want to write, or say whatever they want to write, unfortunately.
Yep.
So for me to be able to actually stand there and say, hey, this is the truth, keep voicing the truth, keep voicing it, voicing it. They can write what they want to, but for me, I look at it back on it and I go, well, I actually said everything right. Yep. But that was very, very stressful. I got on the next plane back to Port Lincoln in the morning, played a game of football over on the coast. Probably again contemplated whether I was going to continue to swim. I sat on the plane back to Port Lincoln, wrote out a big 3-page retirement speech. Was going to be done.
Did you really?
With it. Yeah, it did. 100%. Wrote out this big, in my diary, wrote out this big 3-page retirement speech, and I was going to say, no, I'm done. I'm going to stay in Port Lincoln now and play country footy.
How close were you to having to read that out publicly, do you reckon?
I wouldn't have read it out publicly. I would have sent it to the people that I cared about.
Well, how
very close.
You were close to sending that out.
Yeah. So it was a really challenging period, because that media just went on from there. It just kind of on in the background, in the background, and then Commies blew up. And yeah, I think the hard thing is, like, Cody comes out and says there's not a problem. Emma comes out and says there's not a problem. All of us say all this stuff that's like, we're great teammates. We all have so much respect for each other. You know, we're all here to do our job and swim for our country. Rah, rah. We're all happy for each other. But the media just keeps firing off all this stuff.
It didn't fit the narrative. Why didn't you release the retirement note? What made you change your mind?
Because I think I probably almost felt attacked in a way to not go. That for me, I went, I need to do this just to jam it up it. Like that would be it would be weak for me to give in. I think that's me losing the battle, whereas I need to stand up and win that at the best of my ability, and that's by performing and being there and showing them.
So take us through then what happened over the next bit of time.
Yeah, so for me, World Championships was a success. Broke a world record, got a few medals, happy days, rolled into Spain and France, had 4 weeks of the best training that I'd had in a very, very long time, was on top of the world, feeling really good. I'm going to win the 100 freestyle. That mindset come back up. I'm back.
You're back. You're invincible.
I'm invincible because I swam really well, surprisingly, at world champs.
Yep.
And
all the other crap bubbling away still, media-wise?
A little bit, but not as much. Like it kind of really, it was there, but it wasn't as bad as what it was.
When the trials were.
And then day one of the competition, we had the mixed 4x1 freestyle relay. That was my first. Oh, actually, I had the 50 butterfly, but I didn't have a greatest one in that. But I had the mixed 4x1 and we won the gold medal, broke Commonwealth game record or whatever, and did quite well. And I had like this is where the problem goes. Like good job, Emma.
Yeah. So Emma McKeon's in the team.
Yeah.
And good on you, Emma. Well done. Congratulations, Kyle. Congratulations. Both congratulate each other. You both won another gold medal.
And then have a big chat. Like we're standing there waiting for media, both having a big chat. What do you got for the rest of the meet? Have a chat, whatever.
Yeah.
Go out, get our medals, get ready for our next day of racing because swimming's relentless. It's the next morning you're on again. Tomorrow night. I get out of the 4x1 freestyle day 2 with the boys. We just broke the Commonwealth record. We won gold. Flynn Southam, this young up-and-coming boy, he's swam amazing and it was
feeling
great.
magnificent.
Yeah, it was magnificent. And they lined us up in the order of the media, so there's probably, 20 people there getting ready there to interview. And they've gone through, they've asked, Zach Inserti one question, Will Yang one question that's got to me. They're all standing there and they've just teed off. Not one question about swimming.
Are you thinking this is about to come to you that way, or did you not think?
I knew it was coming because the swimming media guy had said, the girls have just swam their race and Emma's had these questions and this is coming to you, so just expect it.
Really?
But didn't get one question about swimming at all. It was all about this life and there was all this complete nonsense.
A so-called feud.
Yeah. So-called feud.
And there's no feud?
No feud whatsoever. And the ladies ended up there was one lady on pool deck who started yelling at me, like with the questions, and they've had to end up revoking her media pass and getting rid of her off pool deck and saying if she's there, no swimmer will stop and talk to you. So she's no longer welcome on pool deck.
So the high you've just received from swimming another gold, like that gone.
Done.
And so what happens to you now? What are you thinking after just going through that circus?
Yes, I probably stood there for half an hour. I got ripped to shreds.
For that long?
Yeah, ripped to shreds until finally one of the Swimming Australia media guys pulled me away after that long. And by the end of it, I was starting to get kind of angry towards the media, like, this is crap. Like, do you actually see us in the village? Do you see us interacting? Are you in the team room? Like, you watched us, me and Emma, stand here last night and have a big conversation. Like,
and they said you didn't even congratulate her?
Nothing. And even Emma said, Kyle said congratulations. Like, she said it all. Cody said it all. I've said it all. But that was where I just went, you can't win with media. They just kind of say what they want to say, do what they want to do, and get away with it. And me, I was lucky I had Bish there, my coach, and we kind of had a bit of a chat and did my swim off because I had the 100 freestyle heat the next morning, which was my race that I was there to swim. Got on the bus. All the girls were on the bus, the 4 girls, the 4 boys. No one spoke. We're all just absolutely mentally emotional from that whole experience because the girls copped it, we copped it. And like for me, I look back on it, it sucked that I had to cop it, but it sucks so much that Flynn Southam, who's a 17-year-old boy, who's just made his first Commonwealth Games team, that's his first experience. He's won his first ever Commonwealth Games gold medal, Commonwealth record, and that's his first experience in media. They didn't even ask him a question about anything. It was Kyle getting ripped. Like, why would you want to be in that situation, or why would you want to put your kids in that situation? And
that obviously just affected the whole team from then on?
That affected that night massively for the team. I think the team did a pretty good job of blocking it out and supporting each other. We're all a really close team, which is good. Like, it's an individual sport, which is always challenging. You're going to have, we're competing against each other to make the team, and then we're all thrown on the team together and expected to swim relays together. So there's always a little bit of friction in a way, but we're all a really close team and have each other's backs and support. And the team really got around me, which was awesome.
You guys in the swimming team are all pretty good and supportive.
Very good. Yeah. There's no outliers that aren't. I think you look at it and everyone's very supportive, which is always nice.
So what happens from then on? You've got your 100.
Yeah, I go back to my room, very, very emotional, just mentally just down. I honestly spoke to the head team manager of Swimming Australia and said, book me on the next flight home. I don't want to be here. Like, I don't swim for this. It's crap. Like, why would I want to put myself in this situation?
Do they, the media people there and that, do they come out and come up with a strategy?
They could have at trials, which I look back on, they could have at trials when it all started to blow up. They could have come out straight away and said, hey, this is how the qualification works.
Yep.
There's no friction, nothing. That's it.
Yep.
But before that, they hadn't, because I guess they probably weren't expecting it to be that bad. Because it was bad. I don't know. Like, you can go back and read the transcripts and stuff of it, and it was awful. And I think the only way that I managed to pull myself together and actually stand up and race the next morning was being able to FaceTime my brother, who was in the army at that point, and he was doing his 12-week training camp in Kapuka and not able to be on his phone at all. And he got 15 minutes on a Sunday where he was able to access his phone and speak. And he FaceTimed me, not knowing anything at all, not knowing anything about swimming, because he wasn't able to watch TV, wasn't able to read news, probably didn't even know whether I was at Com Games. And he FaceTimed me, and we had, probably a 2 or 3 minute chat, because that's all he was allowed to have. And to be able to just chat to him, it's kind of weird. I spend so much time away, like I said to you before. I've been home in Adelaide 7 nights in the last 4.5 months. And I learned not to miss people. But my brother, when I was away this time and not able to access him, I really, really missed him. Like, it's the first person I go, oh, I've actually really missed you. So being able to just see his face, talk, interact for a little bit, talk about his army and training, that's all he wanted to tell me about what he was doing, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And it just gave me the motivation, because I've got his name tattooed on my foot, so when I do take my marks, I read Jackson.
Really?
So he's kind of always been my little motivation there. But awesome. To have that motivation the next morning, that's probably where I drew my strength to be able to stand back up and race the next day.
Yeah. You swim the 100 and win gold.
Yeah.
So you're under the worst pressure you've probably ever been under. I'm imagining you don't feel great at this time, do you?
No, not at all.
How on earth do you win a gold medal?
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier on, for me, I'm able to stand behind the blocks, block everything out. Even though I didn't want to be there, mentally just absolutely fried, emotional, spent the day probably crying in my room, not talking to anyone. For the 100 freestyle final, I try to get to the pool 2 hours before I race. So I get on the bus about 2.5 hours because it was about a half an hour bus ride. So I went down to the bus, got there ready, and got on the bus and was sitting there, had my headphones in so no one would talk to me. Got maybe 45 minutes to an hour into the bus ride, and one of the Scottish coaches ran up the front and spoke to the bus driver and went, "What are you doing? Like, where are you going?" And he's gone, "Oh, I'm going to the athletics stadium." And the bus drivers and the coach is going, "We're going to the swimming stadium. What are you on about?" type thing. And he's like, "Oh, I was wondering why there's no javelins on the bus today." Like, whatever.
Bullshit. Really?
Yeah. So then everyone, but luckily pretty much the whole 100 freestyle final was in that situation with me, but we got there an hour and 7 minutes before I raced. And I walk in there, and like I said, normally I have the 2 hours to prepare myself. And Bish is in there, and Bish is just trying to distract me about talking about anything to try and distract me. I've got my headphones in, trying to rush through my dry land that I normally do to get back in the pool, because I probably swim 2Ks-ish almost before I race. And then I've got to get a racing suit on, which takes its time. And it's all, you've got to be in the marshal room 20 minutes before you race. So it's pretty compact. And when you're trying to do that in an hour and 7 minutes.
So 2K warm-up before you swim your 100.
2Ks. Probably
Bloody
close
hell.
to now. Especially as I get older.
You need more.
I need more, and I'm just doing more, and I just start fixating on I need this, I need that. And I start adding things. But and Bish is telling me about his curry he had for dinner the night before and trying to talk about the footy. And me in my head, I was like, fucking leave me alone, please. Like, let me have my headphones on. I don't want to talk. Did my warm-up, tried to come over to Bish and have my pre-race speech with him like I normally do, get my little bit of a, this is what we need to do, right? I almost wanted to cry. Like, I think I couldn't say anything. I was going to cry.
So what are you thinking of at this point? Is this still all the crap that's going on?
Yeah, it's just all that build up, just all too much to deal with. And like I said, once I stand behind the blocks, I feel safe, I feel confident, and that's my place. And I didn't swim my best race at all. I swam a pretty good race in the semi-final, and that, like I said, don't really
games
sleep.
record, games record in the semi, didn't you?
Yeah, so semi I had a real crack, and I just needed to do that for my own mental well-being, really just to put that belief back in myself. And the final, it was just about winning the race and getting the gold medal and doing what I couldn't do the 4 years before in the Gold Coast.
I saw a post that you put on Instagram not long after, and I think it said 1,576 days. That was between the two Com Games, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And in that time, so you'd gone from that silver, you got what you needed under unbelievable pressure and duress.
Yeah.
And then you listed all the injuries, which we spoke about before.
Yeah.
You said that silver medal at Tokyo was your proudest. Geez, the gold at Birmingham must be bloody close, isn't it?
It does, but it's something I haven't reflected on at all probably since that moment. For me, I didn't have any enjoyment after that race. It was just like ticking the box and getting out of there and just being done with it. For me, it was sad that I wasn't able to enjoy that experience or enjoy that moment or be proud of the achievement because of all that had come from it. But I'm sure in future, years or months or whatever, I will be able to reflect on that positively. And I'm able to already reflect on it and say, hey, if this ever happens to me again, I've been through this before now. I've dealt with it before, and I know that I'm still able to stand up and perform.
Yep.
So if this comes in Paris, I know how to deal with it. And that's why, like I said before, I feel like by the time I get to Paris, I'm going to be bulletproof because I've been through all the injuries you could imagine, family setbacks, whatever else comes with that side of things. Mental health struggles, you name it, I've kind of been through it, plus the media stuff on top of it, that I do feel like by the time Paris rolls around, I'll be bulletproof and good to go.
So absolutely 100% adamant Paris is there.
Yeah, and I have to be. I think that's the thing with swimming. I think with any sport, you have to believe you can win it. Otherwise, what's the point in competing or doing it?
Will you swim butterfly in Paris?
I will, yeah, 100%.
Definitely. You want to win a gold medal in butterfly?
Gold medal will be hard against Kyle. There's a lot of good butterflies in the world, but I do want to see what I can do in it because it's something that I grew up doing. That's what I qualified almost qualified for my first team for in 2014 Commonwealth Games. Won my first medal at the Nationals at the highest level in Australia in butterfly, and made my first, everything was butterfly as a kid. So for me, I've broken down my butterfly. I know exactly, like my swim speed, if I didn't have to do a turn, so butterfly is a bit of a stupid turn. If there was no turn, I'd be the fastest. Right. So my swim speed's the fastest. I just got to learn how to turn over these next 2 years and I'll be competitive.
You'll be okay. Yeah. So we can just say categorically, so no one takes headlines out of anything if anyone does listen to this. You swim butterfly because you want to swim butterfly, not because you want to stop anyone else from swimming butterfly. Is that right?
Exactly. I swim butterfly because I love it. That's what I grew up doing. the 100 freestyle comes first at the Olympics. The 100 butterfly comes second. So for me, I used to do the 200 freestyle, which then meant I was cooked by the time the 100 freestyle rolled around. Whereas this way, I get the 100 freestyle out of the way, it's done, then I can enjoy the rest of the week at the Olympics, swim the 100 butterfly, enjoy it and see what I can do. But
no one can misinterpret what you've just said there.
Exactly.
Under any circumstance.
No, they can't.
Honestly, just from you explaining that whole story, because people have only heard bits of it. And this is the first time you've spoken anywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm very honoured, Kyle, that you share that with us. And I really, really appreciate your honesty and being open, because it's such a challenging thing. I'm just blown away how you are able to perform in the middle of all that and win that gold medal. I think it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. And I think for me, again, it's something I've reflected on while I was there. And it's like, if I can stand up and do this, not just for myself, but all the other people that have to stand up and do this eventually, or people that cop this scrutiny, or people that are struggling themselves with other things, if I'm able to stand up and make them proud and make them believe and do it for the people, like that race probably wasn't necessarily for myself, and it was for everyone watching and the people back home. And I think for me, I had so much amazing support over that period, which was incredible. Like a lot of high profile athletes reaching out, like Sam Kerr and Michael Clark, and incredible AFL players that all reached out to me. And, you know, like I said earlier on, I'm a sports nuffy. So having those people message me and kind of carry me through that period helped me in those moments as well. So
mate, it's
very lucky to have great support at home.
Yeah, mate, it's remarkable. Who's been the really big people in your corner? Obviously, Peter Bishop, your coach.
Yeah, I'd say he's always my rock, that he's with me. You know, when I'm over there, I'm 11 hours behind time zone, so it's very hard to contact family when you're overseas. So Bish and my squad, like I've got a pretty good squad here that I train with: Matt Temple, Matty Wilson, Meg Harris, Zach Inserti was here, and then myself. So we had 5 guys who I trained with every day who were there for me in my corner. The whole Australian swimming team, they were there for me. It was great. I had so many people were messaging me, reaching out, give me a hug, here for you, whatever, which was incredible. But my family's always going to be the number ones, and very, very lucky to have a great family who love and support. And Dad did all he could, and Mum's the nurturer who doesn't really understand swimming probably all that much, but will speak on the phone and give me the love that I need. And Dad's very, very supportive and will do anything for me to I guess, help any situation.
And for those that are listening in that don't know, with your dad, obviously he played in 4 flags at Port and played footy for the Power and played footy for the Crows at the top level, and I'm sure that's where your love of footy came from.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you about footy in a moment. There's one thing I saw on your Instagram, and it's my favourite quote. I've got a good mate, Greg Hobby, who told me this quote many years ago, and I love it. And I saw it in your Insta a little while ago, and it said something like, the devil whispered that you can't withstand the storm.
Yeah.
And then the warrior replied, "I am the storm."
Yeah, that was that.
You're the storm.
I am the storm. But one of the Swimming Australia photographers, while we were at Commonwealth Games, posted a photo on Instagram, maybe even before my race, with that quote. And I really just resonated with it. I'm a big quotes man. So for me, that was a quote that I knew that I needed to go with. But I probably didn't put it with the right photos. I should have put it with something a bit more swimming related. But
well, I hadn't heard that except for when my mates told me that in the past when, you were really struggling. And he's told me that and he goes, "You're the storm, when you're struggling through things." And I've always loved it. I've never heard it again. Then I saw it on your Instagram and I've gone, there you go. And when I read it and looked at it again, I thought, you're the storm. You don't have to worry about everything coming for you. They need to be worrying about you, don't they?
I think they do. I think, especially now, with all this that's going on, I think I'll be the storm for the next few years.
I know after all that was going on, you just said, you know what, if the media keeps pushing, I'll call it quits. I won't talk to the media. Are you more at ease in that? I mean, you're obviously chatting here.
Yeah.
But how do you feel now?
I won't speak to the media. I'll speak to people I trust. Like, obviously we've had a very good relationship for a very long time, but for me, I won't speak to media that I don't know from here on out, and I don't have any need to. I swim because that's what I'm good at. I do love swimming. I know there was points probably where I haven't loved swimming, but now I'm at a point where I love it and I love my sport. I love my job. And as a 9-year-old, I got into swimming not to ever deal with media or sponsorships or, all the stuff that comes with being a professional athlete that you never ever learn how to do. You're kind of just thrown in the deep end and expected how to deal with people, deal with photos and signatures, and deal with sponsorship and contracts and money, and media obviously is the biggest one. But yeah, for me, I think I've been lucky that my manager's really written down a bit of a blacklist of who we'll never speak to media-wise from here on out. And my sponsors and whatnot have really got on board with that, which is awesome. They've kind of gone, well, we won't use any of those kind of agencies to do media from here on out. And for me, it'll be just doing it with people I trust and in probably safe environments. Mentally
now, your mental health and that sort of thing, which is always a challenge, you know, for so many different people, and I've had my struggles and talked about them. How do you feel now? You comfortable? You happy?
Yeah, honestly, I am. I am at a point. I've just had 3 weeks out of the water where I've lived a very, very normal life. And it's been 3 of the greatest weeks of my life with my family, my friends, people back home in Lincoln that I haven't seen for a long time. And like I was saying to my gym coach this morning, I said, I can go back to Port Lincoln and no one talks to me about swimming. I'm the same person that left Port Lincoln back in 2012. I'm the same person that walks into Centenary Oval on the weekend and people want to talk about under-13s footy premierships and just talk about the local footy and jobs and fishing and whatever. So for me, just that's my place I escape, my happy place, and spending the weekend there is the best thing. And I did a chat with Booper last week about mental health, and at the end of that they said, you know, it was "Are you okay?" day the other day. Are you okay? And I can actually sit here and say I am. I think for me right now I'm in a really good spot. I'm excited to be back in the pool. I'm excited for what's to come towards the end of the year, and I'm just so refreshed after having that good little break out of the pool.
I can remember years ago, you know, when you started winning and that, I remember I think you said that you really love footy, you don't love swimming, it's my job, it's what I do.
Yeah.
But now, like you're saying, you get in the water because you feel good now. You're more in love with swimming than you ever were.
I am, and I think also because I thought that I'd always go to footy. That was always my plan, you know, I'll swim for a little bit and then as soon as Tokyo rolls around, I'll go play footy. And now I've kind of got to the point where I've made that commitment to swimming, and I know that that's my job and that's my avenue and that's what I'm doing for the next however many years that I'll be swimming, and I have to be content with that decision and love it.
Paris.
And then footy. No.
yeah. Well, that's a good. So Paris 2024.
Yeah.
You're going to be ready. You're going to be invincible again.
Yeah.
Body will be good.
Body will be good.
Do you think about footy afterwards?
Definitely.
You'll be 26, won't you?
I'll be 26.
So you're still a baby then.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be playing footy, but it'll be country footy in Elliston, playing for the Elliston districts.
Paris, you reckon will be your last games?
I'd say so.
You never say never.
You never say never, but Brisbane 2032 is appealing, but I'll be 34 then and very old, so I might make a comeback for it, but I won't be swimming through till then.
Footy-wise, you love your footy. And you actually spoke to Geelong Footy Club a few years back, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
About being a rookie.
Yeah, Category B rookie.
Tell us how that came about.
Yeah, so it was a weird one. So my first shoulder went on me, and like I said, I was doing the face down snorkel kick, wasn't able to swim, didn't look like I was ever going to get my shoulder right with the amount of cortisones and things that they'd tried. And for me, the opportunity to speak to the Cats kind of arose just randomly through a mate, and I had no idea what I was getting myself in for. He kind of said, hey, Troy Selwood wants to speak with you. Here's his number. I sent him a message, set up this Zoom call. This is peak of COVID. And I'd been doing a fair bit of running and kicking the footy just for fun at that stage.
This is before, obviously, the Olympics have been postponed?
Yeah. So this would have been maybe August. I think.
So you knew then the Olympics were going to be almost another year away again.
Yeah. So it was kind of August, probably close to AFL finals when Geelong was going all right. They played in the final that year. Beat Port, unfortunately. I booked my ticket to go to the grand final and they beat Port and didn't get to go up to Brisbane. Anyway, I spoke to Geelong, probably had about a 2-hour Zoom call, possibility of going to play for Geelong, and they kind of said, you know, if you want to do it, you got to commit to coming over as soon as Tokyo is done. You got to come. And we're very confident that we'll be able to turn you into an AFL player. We've had great success with Mark Blitzarves, a few of the Irish boys. We've got a good system here, and if there's any of the players you want to meet, if there's anything we can do for you over this next little period, please let us know. And I was pumped. I was like a kid in a candy store sitting there doing this AFL recruiting meeting, and he said at the end of it, you know, it's so refreshing speaking to a bit of an older guy, because we speak to these kind of 17, 18-year-old kids who haven't done a whole lot of this yet.
Haven't won Olympic gold medals.
Yeah, to sit down and actually have a chat and Because I put it to him and said, if I'm going to be a football player, I'll be a defender, and I'll get myself as fit as I can and just punch the ball as much as I can. That's about the extent of my footy career. And but yeah, we had a really good chat, and then me and big Sammy Jacobs again gets mentioned for the third time.
Yep.
Went and had a kick of the footy straight on the back of that, and had a good run around kick of the footy, and told him all about it. And he went, mate, do you really want to go from being the best in the world in your sport to being 43rd on an AFL list and probably never getting a game? And that kind of resonated with me.
Good on you, Sammy. Geez, that burst the balloon quick, didn't it?
Exactly. Straight away, bang. It still kind of stuck with me for a little bit, especially while my shoulder was going no good. And I went down to Port Adelaide and spoke to the CEO and kind of mentioned it to him, and he was devastated about it all and said, nah, you're coming to us if you're going to do it. And
if they finding out about the Cats, they would be furious.
Yeah, they were.
You're a Port boy through and through.
Big time. But I think almost in a way it would be refreshing going to a club where I don't know anyone and I could just be, start at the bottom. Whereas,
well, you're a country boy at heart, aren't you? Port Lincoln-wise?
I am, yeah, Port Lincoln boy. I'm a big time country boy.
Well, Geelong's a little more country than Melbourne or Adelaide, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But you'll play footy after Paris, you reckon?
I will.
Just locally?
Local footy. I'll play. I think by then I'll be done with professional sport anyway. And I really wouldn't want to throw myself probably in the deep end of never playing an AFL game because the media will rip me to shreds. I know that now.
Don't worry about that. You've got trusted media you can speak to by then. Don't worry.
There you go.
But you'd never make a decision on that.
No.
Would you on
what? Outside
perception?
Yeah, I don't know. I think after this last little experience, I'd kind of consider it a little bit more of like, I just see, Cody, for example, cops it a little bit from coming from a singing background to swimming. It's like, well, it's a big jump and it's tough.
Absolutely.
People always want to have their opinion on it, especially when you're a big name. And I know me transitioning across, if I did that, I'm not saying I ever would, I would get a few question marks over it all and there'd be eyes on me.
Of course.
In the VFL level.
Well, absolutely. And the same with him, like you're saying. Like you're someone, a pop star going, I'm going to now be a swimmer. I think initial reaction straight away is, oh, come on, mate, pull your head in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the same with that. But if people always thought like that, they'd never do stuff, would they?
No.
You'd never achieve all of this.
Yeah.
But you honestly still think some decisions may be influenced by what the outside perspective might be with you going forward?
I think I would. Yeah, I think now I will definitely weigh in on it because I know how much it affected me and not just me, my family and everyone around me. It was such a challenging thing. Like why my grandparents having to read all that stuff in the media that's just not true and it's tough. So for me, I look forward to nothing more than playing probably B grade footy in the country, having a beer after the game with my mates. I did it this year and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I rocked up there. I think we played about 1 o'clock. I rocked up there about 12 because I was like, I'll do a bit of a warm up. Haven't kicked a footy, it was proper size footy in a very, very long time.
Yep.
Have you got a footy to have a kick around? Nah, no footies for warm up. Got both my wrists strapped, got my ankle strapped. They did the biggest hack job on my ankle that I went, oh, that's it. I couldn't even move my ankle. And then I stood at centre forward. And the good thing was, it's another safe place for me. I can go back over there. I knew that if I played here, I would have got targeted. I played for Foss a few years ago and people are going, we're going to ruin Olympic swimmers' careers today. And
blokes are saying that on the field.
Yeah, and I hadn't been used to that sledging for a few years. I don't get that in swimming all that much and I was kind of rattled. Luckily to have my brother next to me who gets in there and cracks and fights or whatever. But over there, the Tumby Bay coach came up to me before, so I was playing for Ellison District. Tumby Bay coach came up and said, don't worry, Kyle, we'll look after you out there. And it's all my mates that I grew up with and everyone I'm walking around just having a chat with everyone on the field. And the ball comes in, I was running the other way because I didn't want to get hit or go anywhere near it. I think I had about 7 touches for the whole game.
Did you love it?
I loved it. I had the greatest day of my life. Had a beer after the game just with the boys in the change rooms and it was like, I cannot wait for this part of my life when that's my weekends.
I can only imagine for the blokes at Tumby and the Ellison boys, they're sitting there going, we're playing alongside an Olympic gold medalist in the 100 metres. Yeah. It would have been bizarre for them.
Yeah, it would have been. And they're all old, it was again, B grade footy. They're all straight up the farm, 40-year-old dudes. And country footies, that's it. That's the be all and end all over there. Everyone talks footy. Everyone's signed up to a club and their life revolves around country footy. So there's a big turnout there and everyone's just having the greatest day of their life. So
I'm just trying to think whether an AFL club can list you as a Category B rookie without your consent. Do you have to nominate?
It would happen. No, I don't think you nominate for a draft. It's just
someone. It's going to happen. Let's just say you You go the Storm, you take off to Paris, you win your gold, you're invincible. I reckon someone's going to list you.
Yeah, probably the Adelaide Crows.
Oh, well, your dad had to go to Adelaide and play at the Crows before he went back to Port Adelaide at AFL level, so you might have to do that.
Yeah.
Everything that's happened, and you obviously chose swimming young, you loved your footy. Would you do it all again?
Yeah, I would. I would definitely. And I look at my body and I go, I'm so injury prone in the pool. Like no one jumps in my lane next to me and tries to push me or whatever. Like I've had my shoulders, I have my ankle, I do my knees, I get tendonitis in my knees. I wouldn't have been able to play football. I've had my back problems. Like every part of me has been hurt from swimming. But there's no way I would have ever been able to be an AFL football player. So for me, swimming, I'm glad I made the decision and I've had so much fun. I've done some amazing things. I spend most of the year away overseas traveling with my mates. So yeah, I wouldn't change a thing.
What's been the best part so far with all of it?
I do think the silver medal in Tokyo. I really believe that was my best moment in the swimming world, and one that I'll reflect on forever.
Well, I hope you do get the chance at some point later on too to reflect on how you're able to win that gold at Birmingham too, because I think given the emotional toll that took, I just think, like you said, you haven't quite processed all that yet, but I just think it's just an absolute credit to you and your family that you're able to perform in those situations.
Yeah. And I think it is. It's my family. I think I've been brought up very well from mum and dad, and Bish is the greatest mentor I can have in my corner. So very lucky to have the people to rely on. Tell
us about the lizards. How are they going? Because now
taking the back seat.
A lot of people may not know this, but you love your lizards, your reptiles, your snakes. And what at the peak, how many do you have?
It might even be the other way around. People might not know that I love swimming and they only know I love reptiles.
True.
The KC Critters community, that's all they know.
That's true. But for those that don't yet, well, at your peak, and I remember going around to your place years ago when you lived next door to Sammy Jacobs, and it was like a zoo out the back.
It was.
What's the most you've had at one point, snakes and lizards?
Maybe the start of 2020, I was up close to 500 critters in my reptile room. So I moved back in home with my mum and turned my double garage into a full reptile room, and 500.
And you've got you had everything in there, didn't you?
Bearded dragons, blue tongues, crocodiles, snakes, goannas, frillneck lizards, you name it, everything. I've kept everything, I think.
Now, I've got to ask why. What is it about them?
I think, again, growing up in the country, something I reflect on massively is going, on country roads with my grandpa. He used to be a stock agent, so he'd take me to work some days and we'd see lizards or snakes and we'd jump out of the car and catch them, and then we'd take him home and probably put him in a enclosure at home for a little while. And I always had kind of pet bearded dragons and whatnot as a kid. And then when I came to Adelaide, and I had everything as a kid pet wise because we had a fair bit of land, so had a lamb and had chickens and pigeons and budgies and turtles and you name it. Kind of had everything as a pet. And then when we came to Adelaide, couldn't have any of it because we're living in suburbia. And I remember being desperate for a pet, and Mum said you can have a blue tongue lizard. And then
Mum Jodie would have regretted that, wouldn't she? Because it suddenly turned to 500.
It does when I go away and Mum has to feed and clean 500 critters. But so it blew up very quickly, especially when I started making my own money and doing a bit of research into it and just started obsessing over it.
Now, you mate these little animals, don't you?
I don't.
No, you don't mate with them. Jeez.
I don't.
You mate them though, don't you?
Yeah, so I breed them all. Like it's all this big genetic. So for me, swimming's we're 50 hours a week, 50 weeks of the year. We get a couple of weeks off if we're lucky. This year we got a couple of weeks off, which was nice, but you can't have a job. You can't really study because we're away so much. So for me, the reptiles is my escape. And I just started not fantasizing, but just...
Hang on. Now you're fantasizing. I just inferred that you're humping them at the same time.
Yeah, I know, it's not good. I don't know where this conversation's going.
Exactly. But so you...
So there's all these genetics involved in it, right? Yeah. So you can breed albino to this and create this and that and rah. And I started getting right obsessed into all that whole genetic... If you could... you can have animals that are... We're going to geek out a little bit again here.
Yeah.
Visually portraying 5 or 6 different genetics. So they've got 5 or 6 different genetics in them. So albinism is one genetic, but there's all these different ones where you can have a full, you've seen it all, full white blue tongue, full black blue tongue, full this and that, rah. You can put it all together and they visually will show it all.
Right.
So the possibilities are endless, and the chance of creating those animals then becomes endless because it ends up being like 1 in 244 animals that you breed will visually do that. So for me, I just started getting really carried away with that whole thing. And
I remember you say when you were swimming and you're just looking at the black line the whole time, you'd start then working out what you could put with that lizard, with that lizard and that, weren't you?
Well, I hated science and all that at school, so I never knew anything. But then I just got hooked on genetics, and that's how I learnt genetics, by just thinking about it while I was in the pool.
What's the ultimate reptile you could get if you could ever get one? Have you got like a people say, this is my ultimate car that I want to drive. Have you got the ultimate reptile?
I've done it. So I had 3. So I had the green tree python, which is, the ultimate python in Australia, in my opinion. Frillneck lizard, which is obviously the big, the one with the big frill that Australia loves.
The old 2-cent coin.
Yeah. And then the third one for me was a crocodile. And I had to do years and years of, keeping this, keeping that, a lot of study, a lot of research, a lot of sending off information that I'd done to Parks and Wildlife, them coming out, kind of looking through my collection and giving me the tick of approval. So it was about 4 years till I could get a crocodile.
Right.
And I finally got to keep a crocodile, which was awesome. And say those 3 were my pinnacles for me.
What's Croc's name?
Cock the Croc.
For any particular reason?
Nah, just that's the only thing that's ever had a name in my reptile room.
Cock the Croc.
Cock the Croc. And it's the worst pet you could ever have, a crocodile. They have you put your hand in there, crack, bite every time. So it's been an experience. Wasn't worth the 4 years. But it's over this last little period, I've spent so much time overseas in a way that the reptiles has taken a back seat. And I think for me, I've only got 8 animals in the room now.
Right. Later on, though, when you finish swimming that, you'll be right into it?
I'll be up in the Adelaide Hills with a big, huge dam with a crocodile in it.
I can see you
kangaroo out in
like Albie Mangles or who's the bloke Glenn Robbins plays? What's that bloke?
There's creeps getting around everywhere that keep critters.
You'd be fantastic with that. What have you learned about yourself?
What have I?
Yeah, over all of this stuff, the ups, the downs, top of the world. Everything that's happened. What have you learned about Kyle Chalmers?
That I'm still the Kyle Chalmers that left. I'm still the country boy from Port Lincoln that has the same values, same interests, same everything. But no matter what is going on in my life, I'm still able to perform and still able to push it aside and do it no matter what. I think for me, that's what I'm priding myself on now is injuries, setbacks, family stuff, whatever's going on, I'm able to stand up and perform, and that's something that I'm going to take into the next period. But for me, I think I'm pretty happy with where I'm at with a lot of things, and I'm very happy now being at a point where I'm able to talk about these issues or talk about how it actually is affecting me and making me feel, and kind of try and make a little bit of a change or a stance and wipe it out as well, like kind of a bit more comfortable in my own skin, I think. What
do you want to achieve in swimming still? Obviously Paris.
Yeah, well, there's a few things. So Commonwealth Games gold in the 100 freestyle was a big one for me. I did have it in the 200 freestyle and a few relays, but the 100 freestyle is my event. So I've got the Olympic gold. I've got the Com Games gold. The world short course is at the end of the year. I need to get the gold medal in that.
Now, you're the world record holder, short course 100, aren't you?
Yeah.
Melbourne in December.
So if I could tick that one off, there's another big box ticked.
Yep.
I've got the Pan Pac gold, like Pan Pacific. I've got the Oceania gold. So I've got them all, but there's just the world short course and the world long course championships that still remain. So if I can tick those off, I've got the clean sweep.
So obviously December. When's the next world long course?
Next year sometime.
Right.
I'm not very good with dates, I just take it day by day.
Yes.
But yeah, sometime next year.
And what about life? Obviously, what you talk about kicking the footy with your buddies after, whether you're a Category B rookie somewhere, which I'm sure you will be, but what do you want to do when you wrap up with the swimming?
I don't know. That's where I changed my mind quite regularly. I was studying psychology at uni for a while. And then, like I said, we spend so much time overseas, it's just impossible to be getting up and trying to do a uni exam in the middle of the night and then trying to race the next day. And I see so many people trying to do it, and I just can't. And I think I listened to a podcast with Steve Smith, and he said something along the lines of, I find it really hard where people tell you have to have a backup plan if sport doesn't go ahead, because then you're not able to give 110% to sport, which is what it deserves. So for me, I need to give 110% to my sport right now, and the rest of it will work its way out. I think for me, some days I want to be a cop in a country town, play footy on the weekends, like I said, maybe be a professional fisherman. There's plenty of options, I think.
Absolutely.
There's going to be options anywhere. But
well, I hope that one of them too is that I get to walk into a shop called KC Critters.
That's an option.
I think you've got to do that at some point. You have to.
It might be in Port Lincoln, so you might have to drive 7 hours.
That's okay.
But it
That's
could
okay.
be there.
And you will create some sort of new species.
I think I will by that stage.
You'll be able to, won't you? It'll be called like the Kyle Chalmers, bloody frilled neck, blue tongue, long-footed
That's a fair
something.
one. That's exactly it. Might be a bit more scientific name than that beer.
Exactly. Mate, I've got to say thank you so much for talking to me. And I know, like you said, you've had that such a bloody challenging year and there's been so much success with it. Congratulations. I might just ask, if there's one thing for people listening, what would you say to them about you? What would you say to people?
About me?
Yeah, about who you are and what you stand for now.
I would say that I'm a human like everyone else, and we as athletes go through the exact same problems that everyone else goes through, and it's hard that it has to happen in the eyes of the world, but we're human exactly like everyone else and need the love and support that everyone else does also. So that's, I think, what I'm going to try and flog over the next little period is the human side of things.
Good on you, mate. Well, I know you've got a wonderful team around you, great family to support, mate, and I'm really, really honoured, Colin. I've loved watching you grow up over the years, from a little tacker alongside your dad at the footy to now looking at you now. You're just an absolute giant beast of a man, covered in tattoos.
Yeah, a few too many drawings on the skin, but that's good.
Mate, thank you so much for being so open and so honest.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, mate. Feel privileged.
Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. Now, if you love what you just heard, please subscribe to the Soda Room podcast. You could write a review. You can watch the show on YouTube and share it with your buddies. And if you'd like to get in touch with the show, drop us a line, info@thesodaroom.com. Catch you soon.